For the winter. For the teams, it is a time to plan on greater glory. For fans, a time to savor the season past in a battle that focused on the skill of three men. The defending champion, Michael Andretti, faced a season of change, a new engine, and an uncertain future as he searched for two in a row. The 90 champion, Unser Jr., trudged through 92, trying to develop a new car and repeat an IndyCar championship. Two-time champion Bobby Rahal started 92 as both a driver and an owner of a new team in his quest for the crown. They all set their sights on the PPG Cup and Michael Andretti's IndyCar championship in the odyssey of the 1992 IndyCar season. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Welcome to our 1992 IndyCar season review. I'm Paul Page, and along with my colleague Derek Daly, we're going to look at a championship fight that went down to the very last race. Now, in the IndyCars, the champion is determined really through consistency.
That's right, but I think there's three key elements towards winning a championship. One is outright speed, the second is reliability, and the third is lack of driver mistakes.
So how does that affect some of the contenders, like Penske Racing?
Penske started the season with two of the most experienced drivers in the field. However, when they lost Rick Mears to an injury, I think they lost some momentum within the team. When they put Paul Tracy in there, I think this energized this team again.
Gallus Craco Racing with Danny Sullivan and Unser Jr., both former champions.
Again, tremendous driver experience here, but Unser Jr. had to develop a brand new Galmer chassis while he was trying to win a championship. That is difficult to do. Reliability was his main key.
Mario and Michael Andretti at Newman Haas.
Again, the Ford engine looking for that so-called unfair advantage. Michael had outright speed, but he didn't have reliability.
And then there's Bobby Rahal, a two-time champion with a tried and true combination, but a brand new team.
A new team, but an interesting combination. Rahal had outright speed, he had consistency, he had reliability, but he mixed up some critical driver mistakes in his season.
For a deeper look at some of these great personalities, let's go to Gary Gerould.
Well, Paul, while the veterans were battling throughout this year in this dramatic bid for the championship, this has been a season that's also seen the emergence of some sensational new talent. And certainly foremost on the list has been the emergence of Paul Tracy. The young Canadian this year went through an extensive amount of testing for Team Penske. He went through a series of devastating crashes as well. But all the while, Roger Penske has stood solidly behind him. And now Tracy is rewarding Team Penske with scintillating performances. He's been electrifying on the racetrack, consistently fast. And I don't know, you've got to go back a lot of years since you've seen a first-year driver come on with the impact that we've seen from Paul Tracy. Another Canadian, not as young, Scott Goodyear, has also had a terrific year. Remember, he came on surprisingly at the Indianapolis 500, and then he proved it was no fluke when he was on the podium with a strong finish at New Hampshire. And right after that, of course, came the victory at Michigan, and he's been consistently fast in the late stages of the season. Top 5 finishes in Vancouver and again at Nazareth. Scott Goodyear, Paul Tracy, their presence in this IndyCar season has been very dramatic, and it's a harbinger of great things to come in years ahead in the IndyCar ranks.
Well, Gary, in 1992, technically speaking, it all came down to chassis engine combinations. At the beginning of the season, we thought that Roger Penske had the answer with his own chassis and with the Chevy Ilmor B power plant. But then Bobby Rahal, who owns his own team, took a standard Lola chassis with a standard Chevy A package and started coming right to the front, taking victories. But then think about Long Beach, Indianapolis, Danny Sullivan, Unser Jr. in the Galmer chassis owned by Rick Gallus. Was that the chassis to have? Then engine reliability started to play a big point, because then Michael Andretti came to the forefront because they had engine improvement development-wise and also reliability from the Ford Cosworth XB. We got to about the mid-season. What happened was about the same development took place with the True Sports, the same development with the Galmer, a little bit of improvement with the Lola, but then it was the Penske chassis near the end made big gains. Was that because of traction control? Was that because they made more power from their Chevy Ilmor B? What we do know is that with all the different engine chassis combinations, that's what's made the racing exciting this year.
Well, Jan, we'll start the engines on the 1992 season in just a moment and talk with some of the major players. A season that saw record attendance at 12 of the 16 races. The 1992 IndyCar season review is brought. The 1992 IndyCar season began in the middle of March at Surfers Paradise, Australia. Unser Jr.'s new Galmer snatched the pole from Michael Andretti's new Ford in the last minute of qualifying. The bright sun at Surfers Paradise suddenly turned to a tropical squall that sent the cars spinning. As the track dried, Penske teammates Mears and Fittiapldi held the top spots. Then Emo dove under Rick on the edge of adhesion to take the lead. The win gave the new Chevy B engine a win in its very first try, and a 1-2 finish for Penske Racing. As they rolled away for the Valvoline 200, pole sitter Michael Andretti couldn't fire his engine, giving Bobby Rahal the lead on the green. Scott Pruitt had a heart-stopping ride to avoid a spinning Jimmy Vasser. And Rahal led flag to flag to the joy of his infant team and his new partner, Carl Hogan. At the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, Michael had the pole and led 44 laps, but mechanical failure dropped him to 16th place. In the final laps, teammates Unser Jr. and Danny Sullivan ran 1-2. Then Danny tapped Little Al and sent him flying. Sullivan took the win, followed by Rahal, who took a solid points lead. Little Al got restarted and finished in 4th place. The coldest Indy 500 in memory set up a most unusual race. Because of the cold, pole sitter Roberto Guerrero spun on the pace lap. Michael and Mario split Eddie Cheever on the green. The cold temperatures set up a series of 13 accidents. Michael charged through it all, leading for 400 miles. Then the fuel pump failed. That set the stage for the closest finish ever, as Al Unser Jr. led Scott Goodyear across the line by 43 thousandths of a second, and the first second-generation win. The new Belle Isle track at Detroit was the next battleground. Another pole for Michael gave way to a charging Paul Tracy, substituting for an Indy-injured Rick Mears. As the two traded punches, Rahal moved up from 3rd, inside both 1st and 2nd, and took the lead. The fight with Tracy took its toll on Michael. A broken steering rod chopped him to 4th. Stefan Johansson was 3rd, Raul Boesel 2nd, and Bobby Rahal took his 2nd win of the season and a 19-point lead over Little Al. A slight error at Portland sent Rahal through the grass to a 14th place finish and a pointless day. Michael Andretti dominated, leading all but 2 laps and giving the new Ford Cosworth XB engine its first win. Perhaps the most significant moment of those early races was at the Indianapolis 500, when Al Unser Jr. realized the dream of a lifetime and continued his family legacy. Now, Gary Gerould is with the Indy champ.
I know, Al, that you probably would much rather be able to say that this has been a year of wins, such as the victory you had at Indianapolis, as opposed to that mark of consistency all through the season.
Yeah, I wished it was. You know, I wished we were a little bit quicker, but you know, you first have to finish first, and you know, I've got a great team that prepares the car, and with Chevrolet engine, it runs good. So, but you know, I do wish we were a little bit quicker, a little bit more competitive, and we would have had a better season.
But it's been a man who has been marked as always in the middle of the championship points chase. 92 has been good to Al Unser Jr.
We'll be back with more champion interviews and IndyCar action right after this. Welcome back to our review of the 1992 IndyCar season. Well, IndyCar racing began to see some new faces, some interest from across the pond, for example, in the person of Nelson Piquet, the former world champion. His appearance at Indianapolis, ill-fated though it was, gave Nelson an interest in the IndyCars, and he has said he will return and drive them once again. And then, Derek Daly, there are other drivers and faces beginning to emerge.
Or re-emerge, as is the case with Boesel. When he went back to Dick Simon Racing, I think his career was revived again, particularly with his great run at Detroit. Also at Detroit, you saw Stefan Johansson. His new career started off there because of a tremendous performance in Tony Bettenhausen's Amex car. In fact, that started his run, his successful run, towards winning the Rookie of the Year contest. Let's look at Eddie Cheever. He did not fulfill the promise shown so many times, but in fairness to Eddie, it was not all his fault. Scott Pruitt, I think we have to mention him. A difficult situation knowing that his team was about to fold at the end of the year. Then I think look at Cheever's teammate, Robbie Gordon. He only did 7 races, but he adapted so well to a totally new environment, and I think his outright speed was shown many times. He is very, very good.
So the base of talent in the Indy cars was beginning to broaden. It would broaden more. Let's take a look at the second third of the 1992 IndyCar season. It's back to the bull rigs and the newly refurbished Milwaukee Mile for the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Michael could only manage to qualify 5th, but he made up for it on the opening lap, charging to first place. Though he battled with Rahal, Little Al, and Eddie Cheever, he still led 173 miles to take the win. Loudon, New Hampshire was a new sight, a 1-mile oval with great promise. Michael snatched the top spot away from pole sitter Bobby Rahal in the first lap, but then Rahal came charging back to lead for 136 miles. Bobby now had a 36-point lead on Unser Jr. and 38 points on Michael. The Molson Indy is held on the streets of Toronto's Exhibition Place. Michael battled up front from the second row to take on Rahal. Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittiapldi closed in from the second row. Coming off a pit stop, Michael shoved Rahal aside at the pit exit. He moved on to take the win, his 3rd of the year. It also moved Michael to 2nd in the points, behind Bobby Rahal. The Marlboro 500 at Michigan International Speedway saw Michael on the pole once again, but ignition problems plagued him from the start. He finished 18th. Bobby Rahal cooked his engine, finishing 12th with a single point. 15 cars fell out, leaving Scott Goodyear and Paul Tracy to fight it out. Goodyear held on for the win. Rahal Boycel was 3rd, and little did we know it was Rick Mears' last race. At the Budweiser Cleveland Grand Prix, pole sitter Emerson Fittiapldi fought with Michael. Fittiapldi finally forced his way past to take the lead, and his 2nd win of the year. Rahal still had the points lead, but Michael, Emo, and Little Al were closing in. Despite this wild ride at Road America, Paul Tracy took his first IndyCar pole. The pit stops are critical at Elkhart Lake, and this one was costly for both Rahal and Michael. Now on a hot streak for Penske Racing. It was 2 in a row for Emo. After those races, the fans began to applaud and chant the name of Paul Tracy. What a spectacular run he had. And then consider that pole by such a narrow margin. Now, Paul Tracy is with Gary Gerould.
Well, Paul, we have talked about, of course, what a great year it's been in the development of new talent. Paul Tracy certainly personifies that new talent. As you look over this year, what's given you the greatest sense of satisfaction?
I think the best thing out of this year that has come, I'm consistently at the front now. I'm in control as well. Before I could run it at the front, but things that get a bit haywire for me after a while. But now the last half of the season here, everything's been smooth and consistent, and I'm consistently at the front every weekend and a factor every weekend. So that's set some goals for myself at the start of the year, and I've been able to fulfill them, which has been good.
It has been exciting for all of us, no question. Let's go to Jon Beekuis.
Well, Gary, another Canadian that came to prominence this season was Scott Goodyear. With a victory at Michigan, Scott, this was a great season for you. Not the high-dollar team effort, but yet you were right at the front.
I've been very pleased because it was the middle of February where Derek Walker and Jim O'Donnell, the President McKenzie, and myself sat down in Toronto, and this was all put together. And 4 weeks later, we were racing in Australia. So I was very happy with that. We came away with from Australia with some points, and we've had a strong season with really a one-car and effort. And the guys and the team, the Walker Motorsport team, have done a tremendous job all year. And 2nd overall in the pit stop contest, I think just goes to prove the will to win of this group of guys.
Well, he has a strong team for next year. He'll be back with Derek Walker. And Paul, look out for him next year with a bigger budget.
We'll be back with the races that determined the championship right after this. Welcome back to our coverage of the 1992 IndyCar season. One of the focuses at mid-season was Michael Andretti, not only because of his wide margin of laps led, but because finally he was able to announce that he would move over to race in Formula One. Now Michael is with Gary.
Well, Paul, of course, with that big news taking so much of the headlines, this has been a unique season for Michael Andretti because you've been so consistently quick, you've been a winner, But then you've also had your share of frustrations, and I would think it would be kind of tough maybe to characterize this entire 1992 campaign.
It's been a tough year. You know, what should have been my most dominant year ever in racing has turned out to be a very frustrating year. Giving away Indianapolis, giving away Michigan 500, and about 2 or 3 other races where we were in the lead and dropping out. Those have really hurt, and seems like we've been playing catch up the whole season. But one thing about the team, they haven't given up. You know, they've been giving it everything, every race, and you know, we're still we made the championship interesting in the end.
Indeed, and Michael Andretti has provided IndyCar fans all over with a tremendous number of thrills, and of course our best wishes accompany him to Formula One. Jon?
Well, Gary, about mid-season, the Penske chassis came to prominence, and Emerson Fittiapldi took his chassis right to the front. And Emerson, we know you had technical advances in the engine, we know you had traction control, but what was the influence of Paul Tracy being on the team? Did that spur your team on?
Well, I think it's very important. You know, Paul has been doing a lot of tests when racing. Give an example, when I was in Australia with Rick, he was doing, I mean, hundreds of laps and miles in Nazareth, testing the new engine, the new chassis. I think that helped a lot. But what really, mid-season, we got a good setup for the car. We got a better engine, more power. And I think the whole package together was so much more competitive, and then it was really fun. I mean, then when you enjoy a race, when you have equipment that you know you can win race, you can compete for the lead. I mean, that's great.
Emerson Fittiapldi knows that when a driver gets the package that he needs, it makes everything else a lot easier. Paul?
For Emerson Fittiapldi and the rest of the points contenders, the season was beginning to wind down, but the points fight was becoming very tight indeed. Let's look at the final races now of 1992. In Vancouver, Emerson Fittiapldi and Unser Jr. tangled, sending Al flying through the air, but he would recover to finish 4th. Bobby Rahal was running 2nd. Stefan Johansson was looking for points to take the Rookie of the Year honors and sent Rahal into the tire barrier. Score another win for Michael as he closed on Rahal's points lead. At Mid-Ohio, Rahal crashed early. He finished the day out of the points. Michael Andretti fell victim to engine failure and went void in points as well. The hat trick went to Emerson Fittiapldi, and the points battle was anybody's guess. At Nazareth, a break in the points fight for IndyCar's All-Star race. 10 of the best facing one another for 100 miles. Unser Jr. slid into Jon Andretti. Jon kept going while little Al slid to a stop. The battle was between Michael, Rahal, and Emerson Fittiapldi. Michael waved official attention to Rahal's blend line violation. Bobby added an early lead from his pits to get 2 black flags. And the richest per mile race went to Emerson Fittiapldi. The next day, it was back to the points fight with 2 races left. Dennis Vitolo spun, setting off a chain reaction that sent Jon Andretti into and under Vitolo. Michael Andretti, coming out of the pits, roared for the exit, only to be edged out by Paul Tracy. That gave the win to Bobby Rahal and sending a 3-way battle to the last race of the season for the championship. At Laguna Seca, California, Michael needed a win. Rahal only needed 4th place for his crown. His time came when Emerson Fittiapldi faltered. Rahal moved into the championship position. Michael Andretti went on to lead every lap and take the win. But it was not enough to take the championship away from Bobby Rahal as he roared to the finish, a 3-time IndyCar champion. And Michael Andretti headed off to Formula One. We'll be back to wrap up the 1992 season and talk with the IndyCar champion, Bobby Rahal, after this. Ohio's Bobby Rahal claimed his 3rd IndyCar championship at Laguna Seca. Gary Gerould spoke to him about the '92 season, his first as a driver and a co-owner.
It's been a season that's rewarded you with a lot of victories in the midst of a great championship hunt. A terrific year all in all.
Well, you know, when we started this year, certainly we worked towards the idea of winning the championship. I mean, you always do, but when you know how hard it is to finish sixth in one of these races, let alone win 4 times, you know, you really at the end have to pinch yourself. And if nothing else, I'm just very proud of my guys and the team. They everybody stuck with it, and after a lot of turmoil early on, and then got with the program, and it's been so far the highlight of my career.
Without question, a memorable 1992 season for Bobby Rahal.
Well, the IndyCar season was spectacular. It was what we hoped. Battles in every race and a fight for the PPG championship down to the very last race of the season. A special congratulations to Michael Andretti on his final win. Good luck in Formula One. And congratulations to our 3-time champion, Bobby Rahal. But remember, IndyCar racing really is a people sport.
Well, that's right, and there's a lot of very proud people on the Rahal-Hogan team. Steve Newey was Bobby's engineer all year. They worked very closely together and worked very well. But Jim Prescott, I think, is a man that stands out because he has been part of Rahal's phenomenal IndyCar success right from day one. Congratulations to him.
And this season only predicts what it can be in 1993. And it's already started as Rick Mears suddenly retires. Nigel Mansell comes over from Formula One, and Scott Goodyear gets a Ford engine. Robbie Gordon will drive for A.J. Foyt with a Ford Cosworth. Roberto Guerrero for Kenny Bernstein, and Ari Lyondike for Chip Ganassi. Scott Brayton will have new Ford power. Teo Fabi replaces Jon Andretti, and the Gallus team will run Lola's with Adrian Fernandez on the team. Bobby Rahal uses True Sports with a Chevy C engine. Mark Smith, Garciero, and Eddie Cheever will drive for PIG.
Paul, there's no question there's a flood of memories that come rushing through your mind when you look back over the grand scheme of this '92 campaign. That bizarre day at Indianapolis, all the devastating crashes, followed by the most exciting, the closest margin of victory ever as Unser held off Goodyear for the checkered flag. This dramatic points battle that we've talked about, coming right down to the very last race of the season, the departure of Michael Andretti to Formula One, and now the emergence of Nigel Mansell as a world champion coming to the IndyCar ranks for '93. And as we mentioned earlier, the emergence of the new young talent, to see Tracy and Goodyear and others really energizing this IndyCar field, all memories that stick out very much in my mind. Jan, how about you?
Well, you know, Gary, we've scoured the pits up and down looking for those latest technical developments. We looked into traction control. We looked into those latest engine chassis combinations. What are the teams using? Always looking for that little edge. But you know what's really refreshing about the 1992 season? It still really came down to the driver. Just like you said, we saw great performances from Paul Tracy, from Scott Goodyear, and then Michael Andretti. I think a lot of times he took a car that maybe wasn't ready for pole position, grabbed a hold of it, and put it right up front. So in the high-tech world of IndyCar racing, it's great to see that the driver still makes a big difference.
Without question, it's been a memorable 1992 from our standpoint, and it just whets our appetite for 1993.
For Bobby Rahal, it was worth $1 million from PPG, and it was an $11 million season. Next year should be great. I'm Paul Page. I'll see you at the races.